I get quite a few questions about symmetry in terms of trading pullbacks, as many people seem to be impressed with the accuracy. It does not only seem that there's a natural flow to price, but also that there's a natural flow to price targets as well. Now, there are going to be those who disagree and they're going to find fault, and that's really a great thing about trading. There is no one truth, and the standard way, the often touted way of doing things, is where most people have the foundation. Now, I've always questioned the conventional foundation, which has always forced me to look behind the curtain. And that's not always a positive thing, as it can force you to struggle to find consistency as new information comes forward due to not only who you're exposed to, but also what you are exposed to on the chart. Now, the 100% symmetry and the patterns, they're not an exact science. However, when you see things repeat over and over again, blindly discounting them may not be in your best interest. Now, many people mistake symmetry as a form of Fibonacci, but that's not really an accurate representation of it. There are really a few things that we look for when it comes to symmetry, and they are not based on the usual way of using the Fibonacci tool, even though we're using the extension tool. So here's three things to remember. Number one, we're looking at what has been the natural ebb and flow of price, and we're seeing if current market condition is following the same pattern. Anything outside of what has been normal movement of price is a heads up to a possible change of state in the market. And second, when price exhibits pullbacks, it generally does so in two stages, which is called a complex pullback. The second leg often terminates at or close to 100% of the prior move. And third, any corrective swing in an uptrend can be used. However, the most recent ones of substance, plus those that lead into an impulse drive, are valid. Now, understand that, like many aspects of trading, there is some art to this, but you'll learn which swings are actually worthwhile due to the context that you find yourself in. Now, to illustrate symmetry in the pullbacks, I'm going to stick to the exact same instrument as the last few things I've done, and that's the Euro futures. Now, another point is that the 15 minutes and above are where I usually look for swings when using fibs for a trading setup. Even on lower time frames, you can often see the higher time frame swing simply by inferring from what you're looking at. Now, as mentioned, we're going to use the prior corrections in price to define the current state of the price pulling back. Now, this is a 60-minute chart, so I can also show what I mean when you can infer something in the price. A. Price terminates at the 100% symmetry pull from the first green circle down and projected to the high at A. Price then consolidates for about 20 hours. B. This comes from the last major correction on the 1-hour chart that occurred January 28th to 29th, just prior to the large run-up in price. You can see that price terminates at symmetry plus a chart structure. C. This zone marks off where the last influx of demand poured into the market, which makes juicy targets, and you can see price rebounds. D. The 100% is far from price, and it's pulled from the second green circle high to the C low. Now, this is not a bad sign, as it does show strength in the market at this point, since the market could not attract enough selling at this point to challenge the uptrend. E. This is the same pullback that D measured, and it actually forms a complex correction, and A to B equals C to D, which terminates at the 100% of the A to B leg. I want to come back to this as it shows the example of inferring price action. F. It's pulled from the last green circle to its low and then projected from the current high. You can see price rallied directly off the 100% symmetry measure of the previous correction. It's also an A to B equals C to D, where the second leg is equal to the first leg, 100%. Heading back to E, remember that we're on a 1-hour chart, and this chart shows an example of what you can infer by the price. Now, if you were to simply glance at the E pullback, you might be inclined to treat it as a simple pullback. But the highlighted candle here tells a different story. You can infer by that candle, closing on the low after making a high higher than the previous candle, that we actually have a complex correction here. Now, for better detail, I've inserted a 2-minute chart of the same area, and you can clearly see that there is a rally. This rally allows us the ability to have a first leg measure that we can project from the high after the first leg of the correction completes. This will give you a 100% A to B equals C to D move that also terminates a structure. Just look left. Now, you could certainly design a strategy around symmetry and pullbacks, but you may want to study the state of the market as a context. If you're looking for buys, for example, you may want the chart to exhibit the standard uptrend pattern or perhaps test using a demand line. Of course, you want to ensure you not only have profit targets as part of the plan, but also where you're going to exit when and if you're wrong. What about a trigger to get into the trade? What will you need to see in order to push the buy button or the sell button? What are your risk parameters? Now, the fact is that you may get pullbacks that don't come close to symmetry, especially at the beginning of the trend. This tempts traders to drop to low time frames, and that is where the problems of overtrading begin. Now, what about pullbacks that exceed 100%? When we see corrective moves that exceed the measure of prior moves, be on alert for a potential change of state in the market. Some may take that as a sign for counter-trend trading with the rationale that since the pullbacks are getting larger, we're now moving into a downtrending market since the rhythm of the uptrend has been broken. Of course, you'll have to have it in your trade plan what to do if and when the measure are being broken. The market may simply start into a period of consolidation. Whatever way you decide to implement symmetry, ensure you've tested out what you have in mind. As a side note, the Euro futures is sitting at 1.1289 as I finalize this. Price is having an issue moving forward, and while it may very well break, we are sitting at 100% of the prior leg move up at 1.1282. Symmetry.